Okay, everybody, it's 6:30 or close enough. We're going to start up. We're going to do introductions first, pass the mic around, pictures and all that good stuff. My name is John. Call sign is N7 November Whiskey Lima. Moving to my right is you.
I'm Steve, N7TX.
It didn't work. It didn't work. I can't. I'm Gary, K8BN.
Steve, K7SP.
Brian, W7JT.
Ron, W0KDF.
Jim, KC1BB.
Mike, N7MW.
Bob, NA7RH.
Craig, KG7AZ.
Phil, N7PWZ, visitor, soon to be a member.
Walt, NJHE.
Norm, N9AV.
And Russ, N7HHG, visitor.
All right, and I'm Virgil, K7VZ.
That takes care of all the introduction stuff. From here, if we could have the Zoom folks introduce themselves. Lee, would you start it off, please, sir?
Lee, KY7M.
Warren, KC0GU. I'm a new member.
Rick, W0RIC.
Mike, K7ING, watching the Packers game in parallel here.
Yeah, I'm Ned, A7A. Up at the cabin.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Ned. We also have Mark, WC3W. Would you give us a brief introduction so we can turn everything over to you, please, sir?
Hi, John, and everybody in the group. My name is Mark, and my call is Whiskey Charlie 3 Whiskey, and it's a privilege to be your speaker this evening. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. By way of introduction, as opposed to a slide, I'm just going to read this stuff. Mark was first licensed at 12 years old. He's enjoyed a very diverse ham radio journey, and he's been in multiple aspects of amateur radio. He's held several call signs over the years. He's operated from several locations and is an avid airplane and motorcycle enthusiast. You can tell I've been talking for a long time today. For additional information, go to his WC3 Whiskey page on QRZ.com. And he's been involved in the DX Marathon program for a number of years, and he's here to share it with us. So, Mark, with that, the meeting is yours, sir.
Thank you, John, and also thank you, Virgil, for giving me this opportunity. The second time's a charm. I think out of 80 or 85, I lost count Zoom meetings I've made in the last year and a half. I think I actually missed the first chance. Something happened to my schedule when you had invited me. It's the only one that I've missed that I promised to talk to, so I apologize for that. But I don't give up easily, so it's just wonderful to be back. John and Virgil, I assume I've got. Usually I go about 30 minutes, 35 with a few minutes of questions afterwards. Is that acceptable this evening for you guys?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. All righty. So let's see, Virgil and I shared my screen. So I use the PowerPoint. So I don't know if it's still shared, but if it isn't, I'll share it again.
Yeah, we shared over the top of you, so you'll have to reconnect it.
Okay. Having done this many times, it should not be a problem. Assuming I can get back to my share screen. There it is, Zoom and share. And that one right there ought to be the one. And right there. How's that, guys?
That looks great.
Okay. All righty. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. I'm actually sitting here in South Florida, so I'm probably enjoying the same kind of weather as you guys out are doing out there in Arizona. Although I must admit, in the last couple days, two nights ago, it got down to 45 in South Florida, and that's about as cold as I've seen it since I've been down here since 2005. So quite refreshing, however. So John kind of gave a little bit of background. I've been in this hobby. I lost count, 63 years, 64 years. I'm 76 years old, but it's I was born and raised in the Midwest. My first call sign was WA9JAC as a novice, way back more than a half a century ago, and I was born, grew up there, and actually went to college at Bradley University, where I got an electrical engineering degree and went on to get a master's degree, an MBA. And I spent my career working in the power generation industry, mainly for just a couple companies, Westinghouse Electric Company. And the last 25 years, I spent as executive vice president for Toshiba International Corporation, for many years headquartered in San Francisco, and I had responsibility for all of the power generation sales and business development in North America, which included the US and Canada. I retired about 6 years ago. I was hell-bent to work to 70. I love my job, but I love to do a lot of other things as well, and I was blessed with good health, and I felt it worthwhile to retire and enjoy my many hobbies that I love to get involved in, including this wonderful hobby of ham radio. I've done a lot of things in my life. As John said, I've been a pilot for almost 50 years, and I ride motorcycles. I've made 8 trips riding BMW motorcycles in the Alps. I still have 3 motorcycles. I love them. I've never been down. They say they often say it's not if, it's when. But at my age, I'm not going to stop riding. I got to be a little careful down here because not only am I a little bit slower, but the traffic is a little bit slower too. I got into this at 12 years old, and I happened to go over to a young lady's house who I kind of liked, and introduced to her father, who was a mechanical engineer at Caterpillar Tractor Company. And he took me downstairs and showed me his radios, and flipped them on and literally started working the world. He had Collins S gear, and it was phenomenal. And hook, line, and sinker, I said, I got to do this. I got to do this. So not only did it get me into this wonderful hobby that I've had for 60 plus years, it also gave me some direction that I wanted to get into engineering and electrical engineering. So it's had a great impact on my life. I did a lot of world traveling, and I've met a lot of ham radio operators all over the world. It's a beautiful fraternity of people, and I still enjoy doing that right now. So enough about me. Let's get into the program. What is the DX Marathon program? Before I get into some of the minutia, and I'm not going to get into a lot of the minutia, but I'll probably be talking from the 30,000 foot level most of the time. But it is the fastest growing ham radio DX program in our hobby today. Why do I say that? We have enjoyed year-over-year growth the last 2 years. I don't know what it's going to be in 2024, but in 2022, we grew at 46% as measured in number of participants that actually participated in the program. And in 2023, we grew at 50%. Staggering numbers, if you really think about it. Our hobby, out of 2.75 million hams in the world and approximately 750,000 in the US, we're not growing at that rate. So I attribute this to a couple things. Of course, Cycle 25 has got a lot of people excited about working DX. This is my 85th or 86th Zoom meeting. One of the things I'm finding out as I'm talking to clubs, not only in the US, but in other parts of the world, is as long as this program's been around, not many people know about it. And I'm going to give you just a brief history because I think it's kind of interesting. But getting the word out is my, now that I've got a staff of individuals, is my personal charge, and it hopefully will allow me to achieve my vision in the next 2 to 3 years, and that is to double and triple our participation. So if we keep on this record here, I think that's very achievable. So, okay, let's talk. I'm a history buff. Believe it or not, the program was introduced back in 1939, before I was even born, by Radio Magazine. That was CQ Magazine's predecessor. It immediately was suspended because along came World War II. And then in 1948, after the war, it was resumed again. And evidently, ham radio operators were proliferating, and the ARRL was around, and there was a lot of competing programs. So it just kind of dropped by the wayside. I don't know a lot of history behind that. But in 2005, W9KNI, at the time was in the Chicago area. Bob Loker, he's written a couple really, really good DX books many years ago. I had read both of them. He approached CQ Magazine and said, hey, let's bring this back. And they said, well, have at it, Bob. And so Bob spent a little bit of time and reconstructed the rules and got back to them. And they said, looks good to me. So Bob, being a pretty smart guy, said, you know, this is going to take a lot of work to administer. So he went out and recruited young John Sweeney, K9EL, who was also in the Chicago area, who still is in the Chicago area. And Mr. John picked up the administration of the program, not only in the first year, but for 17 consecutive years. I met John through a mutual friend of mine down here in Florida. He's a Chicagoland guy also, W4QN, Norm Alexander, who co-founded the Northern Illinois DX Association. And I've been to Visalia with Norm and Dayton. I don't know how many times, but I actually met John Sweeney, who was one of his good friends. And a couple of years ago, when I found I had been participating in this program a few years ago, I saw in one of the emails that John was going to hang up his cleats, and I called him up. I said, John, what are you doing? I love this program. It's growing. And he says, Mark, I'm burnt out. He says, I'm building a house in Florida. I'm trying to really retire. So I said, well, at that time, I'd only retired a couple of years, and I was kind of looking for something to do. But in my retirement, I had a pretty high pressure job, and I wanted to build some serenity into my life. Well, after talking to John on the phone for about 5 minutes, I said, John, stop. I can't do this. This is a full-time job. So we ended the conversation, and I got to thinking about it. In my working career, I built a couple companies and I acquired some companies, and I know you do that through people. So I called him back and I said, John, I got an idea. What would happen, or what would you say if we recruited some volunteers to administer this program, to do the tasks and responsibilities that you did in administering, but we divided out among a number of people? He said, Mark, I think that would work. So we sat down, and I did some flow charts and identified the main tasks that he did. And from that, we wrote job descriptions, and he helped me identify some veterans in the program. And lo and behold, we ended up forming a board of directors. And, I came out of the corporate world. We hadn't had this structure before. So these were all very experienced people in the program and sort of diverse geographically. And so I've got a board of directors now, and I'm no dummy either. I kept Bob and John Sweeney on as non-voting board members. So I formed that. And then, because our program is about 2/3 international and about 1/3 North American, I felt I needed an advisory board so that as we evolved the program, I would have a sounding board to bounce ideas off. So these were also active participants that are on my advisory board. But the real meat and potatoes that make the engine that makes this program work is these 5 key people. Well, don't count me. I mean, I just administer and I do what I'm doing with you guys tonight. But the real workhorses are a guy that you all are very familiar with in your club, Larry Lowen, W07R. He's our scoring manager. He's completely redone our scoring system. He a career IBMer, and he's does coding, and he's phenomenal. Then we got an IT manager, Sebastian. He's still working, but he's a genius. He redid our web page and redid our submission tool 2 years ago and made it so simple. It was already simple, but he made it very simple. He's helped teaching me to interact with our website. So I'm doing a lot of the work myself on the website. I got a communications manager who's actually my partner. I have a remote station down here, John Samuels, K2CIB. And then I have a rules and compliance manager, Doug. And then just recently, I brought on Jim Reisert. Some of you might know Jim. He manages the countrywide database and supplies that to a lot of data logging programs. So I got a first class team here, and we're now positioned to expand this program 5 to 10 times in number of participants through the processes and tools that we developed, and it was all done by these people. So enough about the history, enough about administration. What is the DX Marathon program? You notice I call it a program and not a contest, and that's because I used to be I'm a big contester, but with bringing serenity into my retired life, I'm not as much of a contester as I used to be. I like to smell the roses now, but I was in this program. I've got all kinds of plaques and awards and DXCCs and everything else. I just did this program because I used to work for a guy. He says, real smart guy. He says, Mark, when you do something, if you can't measure it, it's not worth doing. I kind of feel that this program did that for me. I just wanted I wanted a metric to compare from year to year how I was doing in chasing DX. I wanted to know, am I improving my operating conditions? Am I getting better on CW? Am I spending more time on the air? There's all these things that factor in. And, for 7 consecutive years, each year I did better and better and better, never took a step backwards. And so a lot of people in this program do it just for that. They don't want the competitiveness. On the flip side, we do have some awards and certificates that I'll talk about. There's a group of our participants that are highly competitive, and they go for the gold. And we have many, many categories. So you can do it either way. Basically, it's a marathon. It's a year-long program. The clock starts on January 1st, and it ends on December 31st. And in between those 2 dates, if you've got a radio and you've got an antenna and you've got a logging program, you're in the program. Okay? You just keep track of your DX contacts. And then at the end of the year or during the year, you can do submissions all year long. But the final submission that will close out 2024 is between January 1st and January 5th, 2025. Okay, and so I'll go through some of these. No confirmations are required. You don't have to get QSLs. You don't have to get LOTW. It's an honesty program. Now, we do some verification checking, I'll explain in a little bit, but by and large, I truly believe most people are honest, and if they work a station, they're going to report it as worked. If they don't, they're not. Okay. So there's no complicated rules. I'm going to go from the 30,000 foot level, kind of tell you how the rules work. And it's a global event. As I said, 2/3 of our participants are international, about 1/3 are North American. Okay, you get on the air. There's no sign up. Everybody in this room is in the 2024 program. Why do I say that? If you've got a log, if you've got a radio, you're in the program and you can still put a submission in for 2024. Okay. How does it work? Again, very simple. How many DXCC entities are there? There's 340. What we do is we take those 340 DXCC entities and we add what we call the worked all Europe entities. There's 6 of them. They're listed here. Italian Africa, Shetland Islands, Sicily, European Turkey, Vienna, ITU Vienna, and Bear Island. So we have a total number of 346 country/entities, activations, if you will, when they're activated. And then you take the 40 CQ zones. And each one of those entities that you work, you get 1 point. Each one of the CQ zones you work, you get 1 point. You add them together, and that's your score. No multipliers. Very, very simple. Very simple. That's it. Okay. All right. Let me skip this one here. I hit most of these already. Okay. The beauty of the program is we include the work band, 6 meters through 160. No contacts through repeaters or satellites, no maritime mobile, no aeronautical mobile. Why? Because we try to, as you'll see in our class divisions, we try to keep every class on a level playing field. If you got an airplane up 30,000 feet working, or if you've got a maritime mobile guy on a boat sailing across the ocean, that's not fair to compete with somebody who has a fixed station. So we don't allow those. Unfortunately, also, we don't allow POTA, but you know, POTA's growing like crazy, and we may figure something out. Mobile as well. The key here is that you gotta have a single QTH. You can operate contests from that station, even with a different call, and still be in the program. You're okay. You can also have a remote station. That's okay. No listening antennas, no multiple remotes. I used to have a home in Colorado. I just sold it last fall. For 8 years, I had at Grand Lake, Colorado. I had an RF station up at 9,000 feet, and I have a remote station in Florida. I can't commingle the contacts of those 2 stations. You got to have one fixed station to operate from. All contacts must be made entirely over amateur radio frequencies. No echo link, no DMR contacts. Okay, very simple on the frequencies. All right. These next 2 slides is the heart and soul of the program, and I believe, and you tell me during the Q&A, if I haven't touched everyone in this room, that is to say, if you can't slot yourself in one of these slots that I'm going to explain in these next 2 slides, you tell me why, because I haven't had anybody that says I don't fit in that slot, unless you're a POTA person, or unless you're a maritime mobile, or unless you're a mobile, running mobile in a car around the country. All right. We have what we call classes. So what we're trying to do here is create a level playing field. Unlimited is like me. I got 100-foot tower, Navasa, JK 3040. I got 160. I got a linear amplifier. I got everything. Basically, the unlimited class, anything goes. Okay. Now we step down to the limited class. We have a lot of people that are operating 100 watts, no linear amplifiers. So we created this limited class. You can have certain array antennas with certain restrictions. Okay. Can't have what I have out at my remote site. Can't have a 100-foot tower and, et cetera. But we do some limitations on boom length and height. Okay. Then we move down to the formula, which, by the way, out of the 2.75 million hams around the world, I think probably 60 or 70, maybe higher percentage actually is in this category. It basically, you're running barefoot, you're running 100 watts, you got a vertical antenna, or you got a dipole, a wire antenna. Okay. This I'm really targeting this area with cycle 25 right now. And quite frankly, with FT8, it's giving people that are in this category the enjoyment of working DX. I've been a DXer since I was 12 years old. There's a thrill associated with it. I'm not saying everybody in our hobby is that way, but I think a vast majority of people really do enjoy working DX. because of cycle 25, I've really focused on this class. It grew 400% last year, just this class in participation. And then we've got our QRP boys. Now, I talked about these. So everyone in this room here, I think you're going to slot here. We're doing something next year. I'm going to throw that in. We're actually dividing the formula class and the QRP class into 2 tranches. And there's a story behind that, and I'll discuss it maybe later if you want some questions. But by the way, the 2025 rules just hit our website, and it explains this division. Okay, now set that aside, keep it in mind. Now let's talk about what kind of operation do you all like to do as DXers? Do you really love CW like me? That's my preferred mode. Do you like FT8? Or are you rag short? Do you like sideband? Okay. Every one of those, if you want to enter this program in one of those modes, you can do it. I mentioned W4QN, my friend from Chicago, who's down here. 4 years, he hates FT8. You know, some of the old timers don't like it. I say FT8 is innovation. Our hobby is about innovation. There'll be something after FT8. I was around when we went from AM to sideband, and there was a lot of people poo-pooing sideband. That's really not AM. Okay, that's not ham radio. You know, as long as we're in this hobby, we're going to have an innovation. Okay. Anyway, Norm doesn't like FT8. He loves CW. He entered the program in 2019 or 2020. He ended up #1 in the world in CW. He's a great operator. He's got a great station on the water, just about 5 miles from where I used to live. But anyway, so if you like specific modes, enter that way. I'm a member of CW Ops. CW Ops is a great sponsor of our program. They actually sponsor 4 plaques. The top score in CW Ops gets a beautiful plaque. Okay. Now, if you like all bands, you can operate all bands, all mode. That's kind of me. I like all bands. I like all modes, 60 to 160. You can do that. Okay. If you're like Bob Loker, W9KNI, he loves 40 meters. He ought to, because he's got about a 6 or 8 or 10 element beam up 100 feet up in Pacific Northwest. And he's a tiger on 40 meters. He enters every year in 40 meters, normally wins it. So if you like a single band, you can give that a try, and you can change these from year to year. You can only select one for a year. Like if this year I want to do everything, next year I want to work 60 meters single band, I can work 60 meters. And by the way, you don't need to declare it until your final submittal. So you can play around with this, okay? So anyway, these 2 slides, the level playing field, basically matching what equipment, operating conditions you have versus what do you really like to do when you operate. We've got it all. And you make these decisions and you choose, and you will then be compared against like people with like equipment and like modes of operation or like bands of all the participants around the world. And it's kind of neat to say, how am I doing? Okay. Simple rules. I mentioned the single TXRX, no multiple sites. Remote sites are okay. Home stations, if you can operate contests, you can even use a contest call. Everything would apply to the DX Marathon. This is our brand new website, and this is what it looks like. www.dxmarathon.com. I'm not going to talk about this. I have my own personal column here. This has a ton of information, whether you're in the program or not. It's got bad spots. It's got bad calls. It's got every call that currently exists in Antarctica, for example. I can go on and on and on. Anyway, it's a wonderful place. Okay, submissions. Okay, submissions is so easy. You take your logging program. I happen to use DX Lab. Some people use HR Deluxe. Michael, the fellow down in Texas, I can't think of his last name now. He's a fantastic fellow. But N1MM, it doesn't matter. If your logging program can generate an ADIF file, that's all you need. And you literally go to your logging program anytime during the year, you generate the ADIF file, and you go to our website, and see where it says load ADIF. That's all you do. You hit that button right there. You save your ADIF file in your computer. You load it up. You just made a submission. You got to fill out some information like your call and blah, 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 and your class and that kind of thing. But that's it. That's it. If you're generating XLS, if your logging program generates an XLS file, you can do that too. So ADIF file or XLS doesn't matter. My point here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to say this is so simple to do. It takes you 5 minutes and you're done. Okay. And you get nice reports. You can do status reports. How many? What's my count? I happen to do this one this is an older slide, 2023. I don't know what time of the year it was, but I had 290. This might be towards the end of the year. I had 297 claim points. That's a summation of the number of country entities or de-expedition entities plus 40 zones. That was my number, 297. Anything around 300, by the way, is pretty good. The average for our whole program is like 250, 240, something like that. Okay. Now, I mentioned our program. I'll watch my time here. I mentioned our program basically is an honesty program. It is. And we don't do 100% checking, but we do have some tools that Larry has helped us develop. They were passed along from what we had before, plus enhanced by Larry, where we will do some checking. If you say you worked a queue, and particularly those people at the top, that are the highly competitive ones, we'll do a little log checking, and we better have a match. I get ADIF files from some of the de-expeditions. I just contact them and say, hey, I manage a program. Can you send me your ADIF file? They said, sure. We load it in, and Larry does his thing. So we do some checking. Really, the reason we do this is it's an honesty program, and a good way to lose your honest people is to allow people to cheat on the program. We don't want cheaters in this program. We just want honest people that play the program. So that's why we do this checking. It's not extensive. As I mentioned, we have plaques, we have certificates. I'm not going to go through these. We're up to like 35 plaques now and almost 150. We give the top country score certificates, and it goes on and on. I'm not going to get into those details. Basically, we're self-funded. Okay, there's no dues. You don't pay us anything. Now we do we accept people that want to contribute to us, because I don't want any of my people having to dig into their pocket to run this program. And we do incur costs, and we do have some generous people that throw in $5-10. You can do that on the website through PayPal. But to generate, our biggest cost is our plaque cost, and our plaque cost with the transportation is about $100. So if CADX wanted to sponsor, we have a lot of clubs sponsor. For $100, you can sponsor, get your name on the plaque to whoever, that plaque is designated. We put you on the website. You can see there's Northern Illinois has they sponsor 3 or 4 plaques, actually. So our sponsors without our sponsors, we wouldn't have a program. Well, we'd have a program, but we wouldn't have any awards. All the certificates are generated by, doesn't cost us anything. Okay. So I leave you with, if you want to help us out, it's Christmas time, go to PayPal, throw in $5 or $10. It does help for working capital. If your club in a subsequent meeting, John or Virgil, if you want to be a member, a sponsoring member, we'd love to have you. You can sponsor as an individual. I have a friend in South Florida here. We just started a youth program. He said, Mark, I want to support youth. He wrote me out a check. Bill, W2CQ, he's a sponsor for the youth 25 and younger, the highest score in the world. Okay, so you can sponsor as an individual, you can sponsor as a club. Okay, enough on that. Let me just skip through here. I mentioned earlier, Cycle 25 has been it's just been a lot of fun. 50% of our queues were in 2023 was in 10, 12, 10, 12, and 15 meters. 50%. That's cycle 25 working for you. It's been better than we expected, and I only pray that we get another 3, 4, 5 years out of it, before it goes away. It's been fun. Okay. This is a lot of data here, but I'll just point out a couple things. This is the 50% growth that we had. We had about in 2023, we had about 1,200 submissions representing 327,000 queues. This was the red here shows 2022, shows the difference. People make some mistakes. If you type in the wrong call and we happen to verify it, we don't throw you out of the program. You're not DQ'd. You just get a 1-point deduct. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but for some of these people that are really competing, like at the unlimited class, you may have 10 points separating the top 10 people. So 1 point is a lot to them. 65% were in the unlimited category. Only 5% were single band in 2023. I think this number is going up because we got a lot of CW operators. We do have a club competition. I can get into that. Just this year, I tranched the clubs. What I mean by that is I don't think it's fair to have a club that has 200 members competing against a club that has 25 members. So now we have 3 different levels of clubs, 75 and up, 25 and to 75, and 25 and less. So I found a lot of club leadership has told me this DX marathon program is the best thing we've ever done. It helps them get their club together. You can have internal competition if you want for your awards banquet or your Christmas party. It's just a lot of fun. You can report your total club scores at every monthly meeting. A lot of clubs have really taken this. The leadership have taken it to involve clubs. I'm moving through this because I'm going a little long. Single band entrance, you can see we're growing in that area. This is really an interesting slide. I mentioned 300 total scores. That's summation of the country and DX entity, 1 point each plus the CQ zones. In 2022, we had less than 20. In 2023, we had almost 100. That's cycle 25. That's cycle 25. Achieving a score close to 300 is amazing. And you can see 2020, nobody was there. 2021, we had few. But that's how exciting this is today. Okay. I have a youth overlay. I have a YL overlay. We give plaques to the highest scoring YL and certificates to the each top zone. Same way with youth. I mentioned club competition. I'm going to skip through some of these. We have a challenge program. I've got YouTube on our website. I go through. I've been interviewed. Tim Duffy, W1DED. I've got a lot of podcast interviews that explains the program, and these are all on our website if you want to learn more. And gentlemen, that is about it. I'm going to open it up for questions. I hope I didn't go too long.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. That's like a lot of in-depth information. Do we have any questions for Mark? Yeah, Jim.
Hello, Mark. This is Jim, KC1BP.
Hi, Jim.
On your limited category, I only have one little critique about it.
Oh, you're breaking up, Jim. I can't hear you. I don't know if that's my side or your side.
Who knows?
Use the other mic. Use the other mic. I think the battery's low enough.
Yeah. So,
Okay, stand by.
Okay. So far, I think you said limited category. Limited. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes, the limited category.
Much better, Jim.
I only have one minor critique, and that pertains to boom length. Some people, like myself, prefer monoband antennas. Now, I'm in the process of doing major antenna swaps at my station, and one of the upgrades is going to be a monoband 15-meter 3-element. That antenna is going to have a boom length of about 20 feet. So if I'm running 100 watts, I cannot get into the limited category because of the boom length.
As the rules stand, that is correct right now. I'll tell you, I can talk for hours on this. There are a few people that are in your situation, Jim, and it's a very few, trust me. Otherwise,
well, okay, let me clarify that I've got an amplifier, so I'm going to go the unlimited class anyway. But I'm just bringing it up for the people who are limited, who don't have an amplifier, but do what everybody should do and improve their antenna systems before they sink money into an amplifier.
Jim, we're still looking at that. Trust me, I'm fundamentally a kind of person. I'm a Midwesterner, sort of conservative guy, and if it ain't broke, don't break it. So I'm very reluctant to change the rules. Now, having said that, let me tell you what I'm doing for 2025. We're breaking not the unlimited, but the formula class and the QRP. I'm actually breaking it into two sections because there are a lot of people out there, and I've got numbers on this. I polled a lot of our participants that have wire antennas or verticals that have linear amplifiers. So we are going to introduce a new class in the formula class that will allow people to run a wire or a vertical, but run the full legal limit. Okay. And QRP, we're going to open up the antenna to have no restrictions whatsoever. It's going to be a separate class. Now, the reason I did that is a big group of more than 25 people got together and they say, Mark, we're going to sponsor a plaque and we want this category. I said, okay. So Jim, if you could find me a bunch of people, I might even be willing to take that limited class and split it too, because I hear what you're saying. And we're always trying to improve our operating conditions. And what you're saying is because you tried to improve your operating conditions, you're going to now have to be bumped up with the big guys that have, like me, and that's not really fair.
Thank you, Mark. I do appreciate you addressing that. And
okay.
I have participated in the contest in the past, so I know what a challenge it is to administer and score this program. And I'm good friends with Larry, Whiskey Oscar 7 Radio. He's my good buddy. And in fact, we kind of shared his remote station when it was down here. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I know what it is to administer this, and I do appreciate the work that you and your team are doing.
Thank you, Jim. I have good help. That's all I can say to that. There's no way I could do this myself.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any other questions from anybody? Doesn't look like any more questions right this very minute, Mark. I know I'm going to go to your website and take a look at the marathon stuff because I can learn a lot from that. I don't play heavily in it at all, but I might start doing that. Anyway, Mark, we're going to bid you adieu. Say 73 is my friend. We will be inviting you back at some point. I don't know exactly when that is, but we do appreciate the information.